to believers.
Welcome to CrossTalk, your favorite internet podcast, at least for today. But I am your host, Mr. Stebo, and we have an awesome show lined up for you today. Welcome to CrossTalk, where we give you our take on subject matters that affect us in the spiritual realm as well as the physical realm. We also talk scripture. It's all about Christ here. Again, welcome to CrossTalk, internet radio show. I am your host, Minister Stebo, and I have my partners in Christ, Minister Lindell Dukes, and I also have Bishop, the one and only, ladies and gentlemen, Bishop Stephen G. Thompson the first, Archbishop Stephen Thompson the first. Let me turn these mics on. And we have a very special guest with us today, Evangelist Latricia Brown. Did I say your name right?
It's close.
Okay. Latricia Brown. She's the assistant pastor of Lighthouse Apostolic Church in East St. Louis, where Apostle E.L. Spratt is the senior pastor. How you doing?
Doing awesome.
Welcome to
Minister Thompson.
Yes, sir.
You've got a feedback coming.
That's because somebody got their live on.
Live?
Like they're listening to us while we're on.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for the link. Do we have a link up?
Yep. Make sure you stop right now. Make sure you stop right now and share the show. Click those likes and hearts like crazy to get us trending so that CrossTalk will pop up on people's timelines everywhere. Don't be shy. Don't be stingy. Don't be cruel. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into the subject matter for today. Go here. First question of the day. And we're going to start with me and Lynn with this one. What's one thing you change about your church? The church you attend?
The church within. I wouldn't change anything. Reason being is because the one thing I probably change is the one thing that is right. I'm like, you know how it is when we take out that one component, like we say all the time, if God took something from us or if we done changed anything we've been through, we cease to be who we are. Mm-hmm. That one thing about my church that probably needs changing, I probably miss it because I want to change something that doesn't need to be changed. So I'm not going to put my hands on it. I think I'll just turn that over to the Lord and allow him to do what he do. If I had to change it, I probably sabotage it.
Nice. Probably sabotage it.
Call a spade a spade.
Bishop?
Yes, sir.
One thing you changed about your church?
I am getting the gist of what you were talking about, because when I first saw this, I thought you were talking about the church that I attend. That's what I got from that. And to say about the church that I attend, I don't think I'd even, like you say, I don't go there to mess with it, because if I see that it needs changing, then I began to wonder whose job is it to change it. So my personal church, I'm just grateful to God that I am where I am. And I don't think I would alter anything, because what's there is what God has allowed. And I've learned to accept what God allows, because I know there's a purpose for it. So I'm not in trying to be let me make a coin a word, an alterator.
Alterator.
Reconstructionist.
All right. Man, let's go. Evangelist Brown. This is your first one.
Well, I'm along with Bishop. I thought that we was talking about our personal church,
Yes.
but now I see you're saying as the church. But I'm with everyone else. I probably wouldn't change anything. But if we're talking about the way that God set it up, absolutely nothing. I wouldn't change it. But how we see church today, of course, I mean, if I had the power, God gave me a couple of choices, yeah, I probably would change some things, how people see church. I would probably, I think I will bring more love back in the church. I think we, as Christians and followers of Christ, and say that we are the church of today, I think a lot of us battle with the love and the judgment and acceptance. Sometimes of people different, I would say different opinions, sometimes agree to disagree and stuff like that. But I think if I would choose an answer, I would just say the love. I think we lack a lot of love. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think we lack a lot of love in the church. Just today's church. But how God has set it up, is already there. But do we operate in it a lot of times? I don't believe so. So that's my opinion.
Any revisits?
Well, I can only add that it's like that, again, as I said, because God allows it. And the Bible tells us that before the end of time, or, in the last days, there would be a great falling away. And that's what's happening. It's where the lack of love is. But it's only happening, not that he causes this, but this is what's happening now. And it's written that it would happen, and it's going to happen. I just love these people that call me when I don't want to talk.
That's the best time to call. They probably see you on here and be all like, Bishop, you on TV. You on Facebook Live.
Well, I hope they don't. I hope they're not watching, so they don't know I said I don't want to talk.
All right. So we'll move on from there.
CrossTalk gonna get me in trouble.
Oh wow.
Shonda said that's our Congresswoman calling us, Bishop.
Okay, probably is.
All right, next question is, we'll start ladies first. Ooh, ladies first.
All right.
2 things you change about yourself. 2 things
that
you change about yourself.
Well, man, it's so funny you say that, because I was just having this conversation with my aunt, which is an apostle.
Want to give a shout out?
Yeah, sure. Apostle Marsha Nicholson in East St. Louis. A lot of people know her from the Mosby Singers. It was funny. We was at Tim Rogers' concert last night, and I was just standing there, and I guess I had a blank look on my face. Mm-hmm. And my cousin asked me, she said, "Why are you looking like that?" And I was like, "I'm not looking like none." And then I had to think about it. I said, "Oh, I get that from my auntie Marsha." And we laughed about it. And if I could change something, I would most definitely change my facial expressions, or just like how I feel usually shows up on my face. And sometimes that could be offensive to people. especially if you don't know me personally. I had to learn to kind of like check myself at that, you know, because even when I'm sitting in a pulpit and, you know, it's like we're supposed to have a stone face, but sometimes I have a hard time dealing with it. And that will be one of the main things that I will most definitely change about myself. And the older I get, the more I don't like to be around a lot of people. And sometimes that could be offensive too. And I'm just gonna be honest. I know it sounds fun, like,
no, you good.
you know, huh?
You good.
Yeah.
This is a safe spot.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes ministry has kind of taught you to be like that. Like you really don't want to be around a lot of people all the time. Like you just value that personal time, personal space, without people pulling on you all the time, or, you know, wanting to activate your gift or stuff like that. I'm fine with not wanting to be around a large crowd. Like, but if you would look at my Facebook page, it would look differently because I travel a lot. But besides that, I love kind of just being to myself. And sometimes people think you're funny acting, but you're not.
What are you going to do
Yes,
when God called you to pastor?
I know. I know, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling with that. I'm serious because honestly,
I understand it.
I
Struggle
just
is real.
Watch out, Doc. Watch out, Doc. Don't get me started. I'll start at the tune-up on them. I'm like, ha, yeah.
It is real.
People think that I'm a people person, but I'm not.
I think people must realize that before we were ministers or whatever ministry you're in, you're a man, you're a woman, and you've got issues, and they have to be dealt with. They have to be dealt with. It's like the withered hand. It can't be healed unless you show it, you know.
So that's one. What's the second?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be very transparent. I would probably be a lot more disciplined.
Okay.
Even as a preacher, I would be a lot more disciplined.
You know what? This is why we do this, so we can be transparent, so that I guess laymen can see that, hey, we are regular people. We have issues, we have things that we're still ironing out. We got stuff that we're still learning. We don't know it all, you know, but we are in a place of where we can be transparent enough to say, hey, I am, you know, I'm getting it together too. Like Bishop say, we're a church that it's okay not to be okay. A lot of people think that just because you're at church, that you're supposed to not have any problems and everything. God's supposed to take everything away as soon as you say, I'm saved. And shoot, sometimes that's when most of the problems come.
Absolutely.
So, Bishop, two things.
Well, I guess they can both be kind of wrapped up into one, and this is something that I deal with because it can be seen as a positive and a negative, and I know this of myself. I think I care too much.
Oh.
I care too much about people feelings, reactions, and it's almost, you know, and golly, I've read this in journals about people born in my solar that have that problem, and I see it, I know it to be, I care too much, and I go out of my way sometime to make sure that people are not unhappy or that they don't feel bad about something that I said. And that's basically me. like I say, I know it's true. I know it is. And, I question God about it. How come I got to be like this, But it's there.
It's a pastor's heart.
That's number one. What's two?
You ain't let me get over this one yet.
Oh, my bad. I thought that you sounded like you was rounding off.
Like I said, I would probably group that and just make it one ball of wax, and because it has so many tentacles to it that it kind of all wraps up itself. No matter which way I go, I run into that. So that's basically all I can say about it.
I'll tell you one thing I changed about my church. These people out here on the comments attacking me. Let them finish. Let them finish. I tell you.
Be anxious for nothing.
Right. What about you, man, Lynn?
How ironic.
What you mean ironic?
What I just said, be anxious for nothing, I changed that. I be finding myself having to apologize to God about my misinterpretation of what he told me. Because I'd be like, well, Lord, you promised. And then the Lord let me see that's not what he said. But that's what I heard. Because the church in my head is different from the one on the ground. So what I was thinking is not what he was showing me, nor what he said. So I would change my anxiety or my anxiousness. And I will also change humility. I'm not the most humble. God knows how to deal with me. I thank God that he knows how to deal with me. You can't be helped if you ain't honest. I'm not going to lie and be like, a show of humility doesn't necessarily mean that you're humble. It can be just that, a show or even an act. But I'm like, help me, Lord. Continue to stay on Dukes, because Dukes can get beside himself, but he know how to bring me back together. So I would say anxiety or anxiousness and humility, those two things I change.
Awesome.
Brother Thompson,
Yes,
can I just right here? I'd like to ask Dr. Brown about your opinion about, because when I said that thing about me, I care too much. It was like you said, wow, okay, it's trying to knock on my door.
And let me. It's funny you say that, because maybe a couple of weeks ago, my pastor, his wife got sick, right? And he was wind up being pulled from every direction. And I remember talking to him, and I said, Bishop, even though he's an apostle, I said, Bishop, you cannot be everybody's superhero. Sometimes you have to learn to sit down and be human and take care of yourself. In so many words, you have to create boundaries. And I told him, and because he has a pastor's heart, like he want to help everybody. He don't want nobody, man. He might have a tough exterior, but his heart is so soft that when your heart is so soft, it's so easy to get bruised or to get hurt yourself, or, you'll just do anything to help everybody. You'll take somebody else have it, instead of not realizing that God's hand is on them. So leave them alone, and sometimes he just get frustrated like that, because he really want people to just grow instead of just allowing God to do it. And I told him, I say, sometimes you got to create boundaries. You can't rescue everybody. Let God, what I'm saying? It's like, let God do the process. And sometimes I think a lot of pastors go through that, especially when your heart is so soft and so tender, that it's so easy to just kind of get pulled in every direction. So when you said that, it reminded me so much of the conversation that me and him had, that I told him, I said, you cannot be everybody's superhero. You cannot. because at the end of the day, you're going to be left there like oh, frustrated and just having all of these emotions and stuff like that. So so when you said that, that kind of it really did make me think about our conversation, because it was just starting to be too much, starting to be a lot. So yeah,
I've also encountered situations where people, they know this about you, and they will use that against you.
absolutely.
You know, well, he ain't gonna say nothing. You know, he ain't gonna get mad. He ain't go. You know, and they will use your kindness. You know, it's an old adage, but it's still true. They take your kindness for ignorance.
Weakness.
Because they know you care.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So moving right along, while we done here, because I don't want our people to be all
I do want to say one thing in conjunction to what Evangelist Brown had said when she said, God got his hand on them. The first thing that came to mind was God adds the increase. God adds the increase. It seemed like we want to do just a little bit more than what we want, than what we're called to do. And we want to not only do our part, but we want to do God's part too and add the increase. God adds the increase. So it's like we have to see our limit. We have to see where we stop and where God do the rest, So just as you said, that is the first thing I thought about. God.
All right, you guys, we got a lot more to cover. We can't just stay on one question. We got a lot more to cover. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but let's spread the love over these questions. So, excluding God or Jesus, what's right with your church? Duke, since you ended up ending us off, let's start you off.
What's right with the church is the fact that it's standing. As David said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house. He ain't say I was glad because they said it. I was already glad. So when they said it, I came running. The fact that it's there, the fact that it's available, the fact that it's accessible, that's what's right with it. Because anybody can enter. Everybody got access to it. Jesus even broke the veil so that we can get closer. So the fact that it's there is solely what's right about it.
So what church are we talking about now?
That one.
You asking me or you asking the catechizer?
Who wants to answer?
Well, I'll tackle the personal church. Nobody's done that.
Church?
No, I mean not personal, but the local church. I'll tackle the local.
I was talking about the local church when I said that.
Okay. Right. What's right with my church is the leadership. We have an awesome leader, and I think sometimes we do the wrong thing by paralleling the church with the pastor. So and you say, okay, well, what's wrong with the church? What's right with the church? And people automatically assume that we're talking about the leadership. They're two different things. Can we agree on that?
I guess if I can interject here, when we ask that, unless we make draw a line, when people say, what's wrong with your church? Automatically, you think about the building I go to, the structure of how things are conducted there. And if I criticize that church, I criticize the leadership, because what goes on there is okayed and administered through the leadership. Now,
yeah,
if
but
I
not
say,
everything that goes on there does the pastor or the leader know about.
but he's responsible for it.
That's true. I agree. Not disagreeing, but do you know everything that goes on in the church? If it's not brought up to you, do you know everything that goes on? We can't possibly.
No.
We can't possibly.
And myself, I don't try to. I have learned over 40 years to delegate.
That's
So
another thing that's right with my church.
I don't try to know everything. And there are people I've been negatively accused of not knowing everything, because you get that where you're the twin brother of Judy. Judy and Judy pastor. Yeah. So if you don't know everything, then you're slacking. Where you're supposed to know, you can't. You can't know everything. Like I said, in my embryo stages of pastoring, I was going around putting out fires because I didn't know how to take the matches.
Wow.
So when God taught me this, when I learned how to do, I began to delegate, and I found out who not to give matches to, and to have.
That's good.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
No, I was just saying that's good. That's good.
Oh, okay. And so it took that, but when the deal goes down, no matter what, whether I know it or not, I'm still held accountable.
I agree.
That may be one of the downsides.
Go ahead.
No, I said it. That may be one of the downsides, but that's how it is.
Yeah, and just so we can add a little aim to this, this is the goal of these questions. There are people that I'm looking on the chat right now that are learning things from these questions. There's a lot of people that ask these questions that won't ask these questions, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's this show or this podcast that gives the voice for people who wouldn't ordinarily just come up and say, this is what I think is wrong with my church, or this is what I think is right with my church. They just go through the normal everyday thing and, just deal with it, whatever. What about you, Evangelist Brown?
What do I think is right about the church? Is that the question that we're
Yes,
talking about?
yes,
besides God and Jesus? I think if I was,
you got to know which church you're talking about now.
Yeah. If I would just take a broad perspective of it, I would say that it's still preaching the truth. No matter what our culture is saying, no matter what the world is screaming, that the church, the true church, is still preaching the truth, no matter how nobody feels about it. And we still standing for holiness and still standing for what God says. That's the good thing about the church of today. Now, of course, we have some churches out here that's counterfeitings, but I'm talking about the true church that's still speaking, preaching, teaching the doctrine of Jesus Christ, the good and what we consider bad. That is the good thing, because that's the only thing. Yes, period. It's like after you give away all these TVs and gift cards and all this other stuff, these people still need to know the truth at the end of the day, because that's our only passport to heaven. So, yes, that's the good thing about the church today.
Awesome. What, man, Lynn?
Nope. I just got something from what she was saying, about the true church. And as I found out some years ago, every church isn't open in Jesus' name.
Absolutely.
And now we're dealing with the admonitory church. All the churches that were established since Pentecost all of them aren't open in Jesus' name. And I used to think that all, at Monterey Church, I used to think that all of those were the ones that was open. No, these are all the churches, not just the one open in Jesus' name. So yeah, you do have some churches out there that are counterproductive to the cause of Christ. And still, God is going to weed those out. He gonna do the sifting. So, we just do some truth at our church and let God add the increase.
Word. Now let's pay some bills, me and Lynn. All right. All right. So if you haven't taken the opportunity to hang out on the corner of Natural Bridge and Jenner Station Road for some really good fish and seafood, get by the fish house and sample some of that good menu. Tell Tammy and Jerry that the good folks at LMBC, LMBC.TV sent you. You probably won't get any free food, but you'll get some good food. Also, make sure you slide in Made by God's DM. Order you a few Made by God t-shirts from Brother Stewart. You can find him on Instagram at madebygod._. Also, if you like good I guess pastries, you would call it, delectable delights. Nobody bakes a cake like Carla Saul bakes a cake. So get your cake baked at Anointed Cake Creations. It's all good. And while we're on the subject, let's go ahead and get some book stuff in here. If you like to read, pick up your copies of Bishop books, He That Hath an Ear, anywhere you can download ebooks. And you can pick up Stair Steps to Answer Prayers at www.stairsteps2answerprayers.com. That's Stair Steps to Answer Prayers.com. Also, go by bookbaby.com and download Manifestations by Elaine Ragland. It's available now. Manifestations by Elaine Ragland. I like that name. All right. So, next topic. You're pretty good for like a lady preacher, or you're pretty good for a Baptist preacher. Evangelist Brown, what's the worst compliment that you've ever gotten as a preacher?
That I'm a hard preacher.
A hard preacher?
Yeah, that's the thing. They say that a lot of people say that I'm a hard preacher, that I preach real hard. Like majority of my sermons are like against sin or forgive. Okay. It's either on one side of the spectrum, and people a lot of times it kind of find you where you at, and it's not going to be like, I hate to say it like this, like you're not gonna be shouting and stuff like that. You really it's kind of like a deep type of look at yourself in the mirror type sermons, and I begged God, Lord, I just want a sermon, everybody just preach it all. God never gives them to me.
The kind of sermons that back in the day they called them fire and brimstone sermons.
Yes, Bishop. And I'm all like, oh my God. So they say it as a compliment, but I be like, man, to me, I be feeling like, man, but I don't think I hate to say I don't think it's a compliment, but that's a lot of people say that I'm just a real hard preacher. I don't like it, hard. But it is what it is. Yeah.
Keep preaching hard, Doctor. Keep preaching hard.
Bishop.
I don't like it.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to change this a little bit because I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. And you said it when we were right before we started the show to Evangelist Brown.
I'm sorry, say it again. Okay.
No, the worst compliment that I think I've had, I went to preach a pastor's anniversary. And when I preached, and like you say, I preached hard, and I had given what I had, and lady came up and told me, she said, da 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 da. I've heard better.
What?
Yes.
Ooh.
And this was the pastor's wife.
I remember that.
I
Yeah.
hate to say it. That sounds like a pastor's wife comment. I hate to say it like
Yeah. And that's what it was.
I've heard better.
that.
She actually said, you did better last year.
Something to that effect. I know. I said, Lord, I said, okay.
Well, what was
You
your
should have said, wait till I come next year. I'm gonna have something for you then.
So, Bishop, what was your response?
I
Gave
could
her a
not.
black eye.
I could not.
I'm
If
just kidding.
had I responded, it would have been Steve that responded.
Yeah, not Bishop.
Tell Shonda to stop laughing so hard. Tell me
Yeah.
Wow.
They were there. They were witnesses to that.
Ooh, that's rough.
me and Lynn.
Okay, doctor.
Okay.
you.
Okay. I gotta can I do one of the pastor's numbers? I gotta ball this up in one. I don't want to, but it's a segue to the next one at the same time. I had did a Bible study one night, and right after that, and I'm not gonna do the impression because y'all will know who I'm talking about if I did it, but this person had told me, you taught that Bible study tonight. You did an awesome job. Because I didn't want to hear you. When I saw that pastor wasn't here, I was getting ready to leave. But I'm glad I stayed because you taught that lesson. And I sure didn't want to hear you tonight.
Hey, it was the pause for me, man, Lynn. It was the pause. Like
that, and that's why I was like, I mean, it was the most awkward moment because
really
I'm like, am I supposed to say thank you?
Because I didn't want to hear you.
Right. Like, you
What
really
say?
did good. Because I didn't want to hear you. And I was like,
that's one of those things. If you had responded, it would have been Lindale.
Or it would have been a fight, one of the two.
Yeah. That's funny.
She's like, I didn't want to hear you. When I saw that pastor one here tonight, I was getting ready to pull off. I was like,
thank you.
Brutally honest.
A lot of people like that in church.
I don't know what I was like, well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, Bishop. Well, you know what? I'm gonna save you for last because you be having some good stories on this one. But same order. No, with the exception of me and Lynn and Bishop. Evangelist Brown, the best compliment you've ever gotten as a preacher.
A couple of months ago, I had to do a eulogy for a young man that was killed in East
Move over to your right a little bit. You kind of lean into your left.
Am I right? Okay.
There you go.
All right. I had to do a eulogy for a young man that was murdered during the daytime in the middle of a lot of people. Like whoever killed him did not care. They just did what they did. And I had to do the funeral. I had to do the eulogy. And I preached a sermon. Of course, it was a hard sermon. Like I just said, it was just a hard sermon. Like we got to change. We got to live differently if we want different results and stuff. That's pretty much what the eulogy was about. And as I stood there, standing my post as they viewed the body for the last time, it was an older man that came up to me with tears in his eyes. He said, I haven't heard preaching like that since I was a young man. And he said the same thing you was preaching. I have been trying to tell my family that for years. He told me, he grabbed my hand